Yes, we are a multicultural and multinational organization driven by progressive ideas and bold actions in a global way. And of course, we have a strong foundation of support, especially for the families and professionals of differently abled children and young people. As you can see, all the panelists are here. They all of us are collaborators in I for Inclusion. We have Ms. Tris Boschard and Indit Babe from the US, Lola Aneke and Blessing Ingepe from Nigeria, Tiffany James from the UK, and I think you know me, I'm Manubina Chakraborty, I'm from India. I'm an inclusive education consultant and of course the founder of I for Inclusion. So let me just not take any more time and hand it over to my colleagues here. I would like them to introduce themselves. So friends, if you could just introduce yourselves and then maybe we will start today's session. Lola.
Okay.
First you.
Okay then. Let me do this real quick. So I'm aware that we have people from different parts of the world, and I'm also aware we have some people that are very good with hearing and watching, and that's why I decided to put this together. So I'm Lola Aneke. I have a Master of Arts in Teaching Special and Inclusive Education from Meredith College in North Carolina. And I'm also a certified special needs educator in the state of North Carolina. Okay, so I'm a board certified telepractice specialist. I'm also a board certified cognitive specialist and the founder of the Comprehensive Autism and Related Disabilities Education and Training Academy here in Nigeria, Abuja precisely. And I've also authored 2 books, Special Needs Made Easy Volume 1 and Mastering Autism. And it's all for what our vision here is to help and support differently able children and their families. So that's why I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lola. So, Enid, could you please say something about yourself?
Hi, hi, thank you. I had a little PowerPoint thing today too, but I can't seem to bring it up. Technological difficulties. My name is Enid Webb. I reside in California, and I started Silver Linings Education Services 2 years ago to try to help families get the services that they need for their children, as well as provide intervention for students who are struggling with reading, writing, and spelling. My background is I have a master's in speech pathology and audiology, and I spent 20 years in the schools as wearing many hats. I was a assistive technology evaluator. I was RTI facilitator, and what that means is what we're going to do before we put them in special ed. Response to intervention is what RTI stands for. I did many trainings for the reading teachers. So in the schools, it gave me many opportunities to understand how it works, how learning works, and how the education system works. And now I'm able to take all of that experience and work with students on a daily basis and help parents understand how students learn. And for me, one more thing I just want to say real quickly is that I struggled in school tremendously. I was just talking to someone about this the other day. I was a CD student, and I felt stupid my whole life because it was so hard for me. And but I had to get straight A's in the master's program or in the undergrad program to get into the master's program. And it was then that I figured out how I learn. And I had to learn in a different way than I'd ever realized. And so that's why I'm passionate about helping others find how they learn and what they're passionate about and what their potential is. So thank you.
Nice of you, Annette. Tiffany, could you please say something about yourself?
Sure. I am Tiffany James. I am the Director of Educational Development for NESSE Learning and the Vice President of NESSE America. I'm a former reading specialist, dyslexia specialist. I'm certified tutor, um, a certified dyslexia assessor, and I own a couple of centers with lots of wonderful educators and teachers that work for me, assessing and providing one-on-one intervention to children. What I spend most of my time doing now is I get to embrace a personal passion, and that's just advocacy for children, especially children that don't have the ability to get one intervention because of economic circumstance, or maybe they're too far from one-on-one specialists. So both myself and my husband were really passionate about just trying to get structured literacy made by any company. We are the owners of Nessie Learning, but we advocate for other great intervention programs as well. We just want children to have opportunity, because that's something that both my husband and I, we're both dyslexic. I'm dyslexic and dysgraphic, and so school was very difficult for us, and we would just love to be able to help school be a little bit easier for as many children as we can. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm very privileged to sit here on this panel with these wonderful colleagues, specialists in many related fields of special education, and looking forward to learning today a lot from Therese, whose specialty is in line with the topic of today. Very eager to hear what she has to teach us.
Yeah, thank you, Tiffany. Now, Blessing, it's your turn now.
All right. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I am Blessing Ngape. I am a certified special needs teacher. I'm certified by the IBCTES as an autism specialist. I'm also certified by the Cadet Academy, which happens to be Lola's Academy, as a special needs teacher too, in all the 13 disabilities mentioned in the IDEA. And then, of course, I have a special passion for children with dyslexia. And this has given birth to my organization called the Dyslexia Help Africa, where we offer intervention for children with dyslexia. We create awareness through different seminars, and we also train teachers on how to teach more so they can learn better. And I'm so happy and excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Blessing. Now on to Tris. Tris, if you could just say something about yourself, and after that, if you could just start today's session.
Sure.
Thank you.
So my name is Therese Martel-Bossart. I've started the company called Empowering Steps about 15 to 18 years ago. And my whole goal was to help people learn to regulate emotion, to help them through their lives. I'm also a certified coach. I'm a Reiki master. My degree is in economics. So I kind of have a mix of a lot of things in my background that have really brought me to this point. And I have been blessed to do trainings across the world in this particular self-regulation mode, which is really a lot of fun. And it's super great because I get to empower people. And that was where I started my company, was Empowering Steps. So this, I feel, is wonderful information for everybody. And so I'm really honored to be on this panel with all these highly skilled colleagues. It's just amazing. And to really help these children and parents during this time. So yes, we can get started. I've got a PowerPoint, so I'm going to share my screen. What I'd like to offer too, as I go through, I'm going to be asking questions. So the panel members can put experiences to what I have said, if see things, how these apply. If we can help the attendees by saying, you know, some of the information that I'm mentioning, how you can apply it within your classroom, within your programs, that would be really helpful, I think, for everybody. My email is listed. If you'd like to contact me, I'd love to hear from you. What we're talking about today is the story from the inside. It's how we as individuals can empower ourselves, whether we're in a group and whether we're the teacher, whether we're the parents, whether we're the child. And once we integrate all this information, we're much better able to handle situations that might seem a little different. And what I want everyone to really understand is this is unprecedented. What we're living through right now, most people have not had experience with. So please be patient with yourself. If you feel you've been unkind or you have great anxiety or stress or worry, we all have it. But what I'm hoping is to give you some information to understand your body, how it works, and how we can really affect a change with this. Okay? So I shared this last time, but what research says about learning emotional competence. You know, children who learn emotional competence show more pro-social behavior, physical health, better attention skills, and popularity. So we're talking about children today, and this applies, but I want everyone to understand that it also applies to us, okay? We'll have more pro-social behavior. We'll have more physical health as adults. And once we learn this, everything changes. And we always have a choice. So remember that. You might not think your choices are very good at the time, but you always have a choice. And that gives your body it sends information to your body to say, yes, yes, everything's okay. So what is an emotion? I'm going to shrink down here. An emotion is mental and physiological state associated with a wide variety of feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. And most importantly, they are subjective experiences or experienced from an individual point of view. Okay? Is there any comments to that? All right. For instance, this picture. So we will look at this picture and we will have, just as I think I saw 60 people on this call, there'll be 60 versions of what this picture means to somebody. There'll be 60 different ideas and emotions that are coming up within people about this particular picture. Is it frightening? Is it joyful? Do you feel magical? How does this picture make you feel? Every single thing that goes on during the day gives us a feeling. We may have an incident happen and you're looking at it, and I would look at it and say, wow, that's a great thing. Somebody else is going to comment, oh no, that's terrible. Somebody else is going to say something different. So as we're working with children with neurodiversity, the same thing is happening, yet they may have some kind of they won't be able to tell you. So you're going to see different behaviors that come. But feelings, what does something feel like, is very important. And once we learn our feelings and how to work with them and how to balance them, then everything in the physiology of our body changes. So panelists, what do you see in this picture?
It's magical.
Magical.
Yeah, I was going to say peace.
Yeah.
Magical.
Good, so I'm glad there's no fear in this.
Yeah. It's quite a positive in it.
Go ahead. Okay, so emotions determine what we care about and what motivates us. So I think on the last panel, there was a question about if we ignore emotions, can it cause a problem? And I believe it would make things more challenging, because this is where we get how we care about something. I know I have also a learning disability, and I had to break through. I ended up going to a very fine university, but I couldn't have gotten there unless I had the drive. And it might not have been confidence, but I had a will and a drive, and it was an emotional part of me that really thought, you know what, I'm going to do this and I can do this. And I know Enid and I have talked about this. It is our driver. And if we ignore emotions, we have ignored a whole part of ourselves that can be helpful. Because according to Heart Math, which is the programs that I do represent, the emotions drive the system and they change the physiology of the body, all right? And the biggest factor, which I find very interesting, is that the heart sends more neurotransmitted messages to the brain than the brain to the heart. And the heart is the center of emotions. It's not just a blood pumping machine in our bodies. So if this is indeed the case and we're ignoring emotions, we're ignoring a whole part of our body that can be very helpful for us.
And I'm going to jump in real quick right here, because this is I wanted to share something. We talked about this yesterday, about how Therese taught me such a valuable thing when I first met Therese. And it applies to this. And she put it so beautifully, and I see it with all my students. I'm just going to go ahead and read how I summarized her words. Because students with dyslexia learn differently than the system teaches, and this applies to all neurodiversity, but this was specific to dyslexia, they experience failure repeatedly, starting when they begin school. When a student is presented with a traumatic stimuli, and in this situation, anything that they perceive that they're going to fail, the student will go into flight, fight, or freeze mode for protection. So when a student is in flight, fight, or freeze mode, no critical or creative thinking can occur. So we have these students who, by the time, I get some of these students, they are so in this mode of, alert, failure, I need to protect myself. And then, so the motivation is affected by that. The drive isn't there because they're protecting themselves. So I think that's an important thing too. When, we hear a lot about all kids with neurodiversity in school, that they're lazy, or they're not making the effort, or they're acting out in a certain way, when truly it's this thing that they have where they're just trying to protect themselves from that traumatic stimuli, which is failure. So thank you.
Okay, yes, and to add, hello?
Go on.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to add to what Enid just said, because I remembered one of my students who has always failed in the classroom, But a few days back, we were working on some words, and it was a game. So I show you a flashcard. If you call the word correctly, you get marks. If I call the word correctly, I get marks. So I had to pretend that I wasn't getting the words correctly, and she was so motivated that, for the first time, she was winning at something, and she was happy. I mean, the first time she got the two words wrong, but then the second time she got no word wrong at all. So what Enid said, I wanted to cite that example.
Hi, can I speak?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I was going to add something also about an experience, thinking of what Enid just said, and that most times children who are struggling, but I'm going to use an example of a student who struggles with reading, and why it's important for us as teachers, as parents, to understand the power of emotion and what it is all about. I remember this student of mine, I was observing a particular class, and the teacher is actually a general ed teacher, and this student struggled with reading. And what they do in that class is read aloud, like they make the kids read one after the other. So what he does is, and she actually said this to me, what he does is, because he's aware that he has a challenge reading and the teacher does not understand that that's his challenge, because she's not aware of what it is, he would, whenever he's about to get his turn to read, that's when it starts to throw tantrum or try to make an excuse, or can it use the restroom, and it's drink water and all of that. So he's aware of this is like a flight or a fight mode for me. So that I stay and do it or make a mess of the whole thing, I rather excuse myself. But the moment I realized that I spoke with the teacher, it got better. So I said to her, because he's aware that he can't read, and you making him stand up to read aloud to everybody, it's a challenge for him. So you find a way to protect himself from being embarrassed in front of the whole class, and then you think he's just being destructive, just want your class, he doesn't want your class to go on as it ought to be. So that's, for me, is a big one. Understanding what emotion is how it affects the child's learning, talking about what we care about and what motivates us. So that's my own example.
Yes, and that's so perfect, because what is the brain doing in that situation? Just as you said, Lola, it is protecting that student. The student is pulling the information that he needs to protect himself. The brain wants to protect us. The heart is where we live from. The heart, I feel, is where we get our joy and our drive for life. And as a student who's been put down, and not put down on purpose, I'm not saying that anyone does this on purpose, but when we giving that message, and that is, I mean, the other part of a lot of this is that our heart, our magnetic field, is giving out a message at least 3 feet, according to the studies from this company, HeartMath. If that is indeed the case, think about the 3 feet of everybody around each student when they feel this stress from this student coming up. So if we teach them to calm that all down, that changes the whole situation. Now the student has a little more confidence. He, maybe take him aside and talk to him and say, okay, so we have standing up reading. What would you like to do? Or how would you like to contribute? I don't even know if that's possible, because I am not in the classroom, and I put that out to my colleagues. I come in and I train in the classroom. I do work with students and teachers, but I'm not there 24/7 or all day long. That's a different situation. You can utilize a lot of these things that I'm teaching today, but truly it's your expertise that's needed in the classroom to actually, work with these children. And these children are gifted in different areas, but when we shut this down, and Eden and I talk about this all the time, we get we get cortical inhibition. And we'd like to foster cortical facilitation, meaning that you are pulling the information from your brain because you're calm. Okay, and this is, I'm just mentioning this. This can come more in more detailed class, and you can understand more. But these are just some thoughts and ideas for now. Are there any other comments to this? Okay, great.
Yeah, no.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree with everything that the other educators on the panel said. It is the experience of these children is pretty universal around the world. They have similar sorts of behaviors that they experience, shutting down like that. And the key is, as educators, is helping to know how to turn that around. And so that's why I'm so glad to participate in what you're teaching us, because I do know this, and I wonder if my colleagues would agree with this, is when a child is in that state, you're not going to get much out of them anyway. They don't have much to give you.
No.
You really have to get them to a different place, and that's part of intervention. It's not just academic. It's about academics, about half of it.
And really, just to piggyback off of that's why so many students don't progress in certain programs in the schools. And so again, you can't just say, oh, this program works for this student and it's going to work for this one. If they've shut down, and they may not show any progress with a program provided for them because of that.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Right. And what happens is when we empower them with what we're going to talk about today, with this breathing technique that we're really going to practice, they feel that they have some kind of somewhere to go, and trusting in themselves. Because, I know I've spoken to a lot of colleagues about this, but the trust is lost, and that's very difficult. And so how do we gain the trust back? Well, the child needs to trust themselves, because really at the end of it, who do we have? We only have each other. And we're seeing a lot of this now because we're all shut into homes, and we didn't realize how much we took from others when, to give us support and a smile during the day or something, how much that changed our bodies, our physiology. Okay, so now we're really learning. This is so important that we do this from within, and we can. Okay, we've just taken that, we've given that power to everyone else. I know here, a few years ago, I was working in a school, and they said, oh, we told the kids to leave their emotions out at the front, in front of the classroom door. And I was like, whoa, that's really difficult. That would be against what I would think would work better. But again, I have to give credit to the teachers who are in the classroom every day, who have, joined this profession to change the world. So, you know, I think there's a balance that we can reach. But if we look at each of these children, they're all in a different kind of state, right? And they can all be seeing the same thing, but they're just in a totally different space for each of them. So it's just important that we pay attention to this if we can. And then again, we have the 32 children in the classes sometimes in the US, so it becomes very difficult. And again, without emotions, life would lack meaning and purpose. You know, we just would be, I think we'd be frightened all the time and stuck in the house because our brain would want to just protect us. And it's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that, except that we can't live. But, you know, our body is a full system, and we want to engage the full system as much as possible to have optimal performance, right? So that's the key.
Can I say something really quick? Because you made me think of something. When you said trust, it's so important. It's like a cycle. You have, the students have to trust you now to be able to be in a place where they can learn. However, you know, and they're not trusting a lot right now. You said they have to trust themselves. And so what's full circle is that we help the students, they first trust us, then we get them in a place where they understand their own physiological being and how they are in their optimal state. And then the beautiful thing I'm noticing with all my students who I've used these methods with is that now they're able to come to me and verbalize, emotionally say, this is too hard. Can we do something different today? Or, you know, and they're able to self-advocate in a way that they never could have before. So you made me think of that by the trust and the calming, now they also have this newfound confidence that they can say, this is too much, or I need this, or I need that. You know, we give them that, but also it's just really powerful to know, to see that happen, to see that when students are given, you know, the tools, you know, because my students now will say to me when they need a break or when they need that. So thank you.
Right. And I think it's really important to mention also that break is required, because at some point they're getting too much adrenaline in their system. So the body is sending in messages. And there's a whole, I don't want to get into this again today, but there's a whole new development in how the brain processes emotion. And if it's a negative emotion, that it doesn't really, well, whatever. But the deal with it is that we really need to calm that emotional charge for these children, because then they're able to move forward quicker, okay? Because the brain is, again, just trying to protect us. So, okay, let's go to this next slide. I didn't want to sit on this one because I want to talk about energy depleting emotions. And when people say to each other, wow, you are so emotional, or oh my gosh, that person's so emotional, they generally are referring to these emotions, which are energy depleting. I don't even want to call them negative. I want to call them more energy depleting. So when this is happening, that is when the adrenaline's rushing in the system. As Enid mentioned before, the child says they have to get up. They need to get up because all of the adrenaline has run into their system from something that is caused them fear or anger, some kind of trigger, anxiety or disappointment. So the protection of the body is to push in the adrenaline so that you can run away from it. What we want to do when these children get these triggers is, for instance, as Lola mentioned, that young person standing in front of the room, they want to leave. That's why they want to leave. They have to get rid of the adrenaline. I mean, maybe a thought would be that they go and do jumping jacks within the classroom, or they do, you know, go in a circle and walk in a circle, the whole classroom together, not just singling out one particular child. Because what did that do? That got rid of the adrenaline that is so heavy in the system. Adrenaline that sits in the system for your whole life is where we see health issues such as high blood pressure. You have heart problems, you have headaches, you have stomach aches. Now, children will be affected by the headache and the stomach ache and all that. And again, what's that telling us? Just that there's too much adrenaline in the body that we need to regulate it. Not that there's something wrong with you, not that you're too emotional, not that there's, you know, a big problem. It's more of just learning how your body's working and what to do about it. So I'd like to spend a little time on this one. I mean, think about this. Even say to yourself, courage, honor, hope, appreciation, gratitude, confidence, contentment and serenity, care, love of family, compassion, tolerance and patience, adventure, enjoyment, inspiration, awe, love, and joy. Those are the choices that you can take instead of choosing the energy depleting emotions. We can choose to change them to this. And when was the last time you took time to really feel these emotions? We're always so busy, and now we're so worried. We're worried about what's going on in the world. We have fear about, not having a job. We have fear about our children never being able to succeed. We have, but then we have, oh my goodness, we have all this time together. We can really learn about each other. I have so much gratitude because my family's together and we're safe, and we're not exposing ourselves to what could maybe be a danger or a health issue. Okay. Feeling together as a group. I mean, think about globally, a global challenge. Have we ever had this all together? Wow. Let's learn tolerance. Let's learn patience. We had a lot of riots here in the US. Let's talk about how we treat people. And let's think about it, because we're not running back and forth anymore. We're sitting and we've got time. So let's think about it. Let's think how we can change our views or change our feelings about things to help people. Okay, and again, if that is indeed true, which they've measured with a magnetometer, 3 feet, we have 3 feet that our magnetic field is going out. If our heart is balanced and we're sending out joy and love, think how much of a difference that makes to your family. This can actually change. When we do these breathing techniques, you can change within 3 minutes the physiology of your body. Any thoughts or questions?
Just hearing you talk about that, I feel changed already.
Good. But even saying these words, I think someone was saying yesterday that they had to go rest because it was so chaotic and everything was crazy. If you just sat there for a minute.
Muted. We can't hear you. Lola's muted. I didn't know if Lola was. Oh.
That was me. Sorry, I was actually speaking. I thought you could hear me. Now it's
Oh,
me.
no, so I wanted to hear
Ahead. Because sometimes when we don't understand what emotions are, we tend to we put the energy wrongly. So like I had an idea when I knew I was getting stressed up. I needed to just take a break and come back to what I was doing. But because of the minor idea I had about that, and because of what I do, I could shut off at that time and go get a break and tell myself, look, you don't have to finish it all right now. Try and find a good place in myself and then come back with a renewed energy. With all of this now, I feel like, oh, you didn't do so badly, but you can learn more. Tell yourself you can do this. I mean, do more things that will give you the good energy, renewed emotions as opposed to the negative emotions. So this is big for me. And like I said, I have a lot to learn after I spoke to you yesterday. So this just confirms it to me, and I'm happy about this.
Well, and I think that's true. And Lola, I appreciate that because, again, when someone says, oh, you're so emotional, what are we thinking? That's a negative thing. Mm-hmm. Well, we're only thinking negative because of those negative emotions. What if we said, oh, you're so emotional. Thank you. I'm so happy about that. I'm emotional. I have adventure, and I am love, and I am joy. And,
yes.
Yes, it happens to me. It happens to me quite often. Yeah. People tell me that the only negative thing you have is you are too emotional. And I tell them, yeah, thank you. And that's why I'm in this profession. And in my previous workplaces also, I heard this. And people say to me that it's only drawback that you have is you are too emotional. but I always took it as a compliment.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
emotional, and that's why I can take care of others' emotions.
Yes.
I can
I agree
understand
with that
others'
completely.
emotions.
Yes.
Yes.
I always
Next
got it, but it was
question.
never I'm sorry. I got that a lot my whole life. You're too emotional, and it was a very negative
Well,
comment
I don't
made.
think people mean it as a compliment, do they? They don't mean
That's
it to
what
be a
I mean. Yeah,
compliment.
yeah, yeah.
But
Exactly. But I love that to take it as a compliment now. That's a good way to
yes,
shift
yes.
it. And that
Exactly.
Right, right.
Okay,
And I
Terry.
think, I mean, I'd like to ask Tiffany. I mean, Tiffany, do you think you could have done everything you've done if you didn't have some of this hope and appreciation and confidence and care? And I mean, how could you have done the job you're doing without these?
No, I think it absolutely is an asset to these professions. I mean, we are people that really kind of lead with our heart and just sort of intuitively, even if we don't know how to articulate that. And what you're teaching us is so valuable. But I mean, these professions that we're in, we're kind of caretakers and counselors and teachers, and we're looking after vulnerable children. I mean, we do, I think all of us do. I think that's kind of universal between all of us. We do that through our heart, even if we don't know how to describe that. I think we're all quite emotional ladies. And I think it's an asset. And something interesting when you talked last time, and I was talking to Mike in the kitchen afterwards, and I was saying, well, teachers do this instinctively, and he said, but do they really do it instinctively, or is it that really good teachers do it instinctively? I'm not saying that some teachers are bad teachers, but there's really exceptional teachers. He said, is it really, Tiffany, that all teachers just do this instinctively, or is it just a few? And I got to thinking about that, and I was thinking about all the teachers that work for me. Well, why have I chosen them? What was it about them? It's not necessarily because they all had credentials from an Ivy League school or something, but it's because
Oh, we lost her.
Oh, I know. Well,
She'll come back.
shoot.
Terry, I saw a question there, and I'm so interested. Someone is asking if it's possible for a child not to have an emotion.
I don't believe it's possible that they don't have emotion. What I believe has happened, and Enid and I have talked a lot about this, is that they have shut down their emotion. Because if it's a feeling thing coming from the heart, it hurts too much. So, we've heard, I know I've heard very often, my heart hurts. It actually hurts. You feel your heart hurts, and it's from the emotion. And if you don't want to feel emotion because you've got post-traumatic stress from being put down all the time, from being told you're no good, from being you'll never be able to success because you can't read, you can't do math, you can't do this, you can't do that, you shut down that emotion. You no longer want to feel. So I would say they have not lost their emotion. They still have emotion, but they need to be taught. Now, it's different with, I think, Asperger's. I'm not so sure how that works. You ladies would have to tell me more about that.
It would be the same, Therese. I mean, truly, like, I mean, the cornerstone of any of this autism spectrum disorders is the difficulty taking the perspective of another person. And so that comes into play there. But as far as, with the children I've worked with, and with my experience with children with autism, they have emotions just like anybody else. They want to experience things. And I think this is important too. We all know this, but from a perspective just globally understanding autism, they want friends. They want all of the same things, we all want, the connection, everything. It's the, how do I get it? It's the, how do I express myself? How do I show my emotions? How do I even know what this thing called emotion is? How do I have a gradation of emotion, right? Because sometimes I think the emotion, when I start working with kids, when I worked with kids on the autism spectrum, most of them had like black and white emotions. It was like, I'm happy or I'm sad. And then it was like, okay, but there's a gradation. There's that you can be kind of a little bit annoyed, or you can be enraged, and so that kind of thing is helping. So I would think what I would say about that is that it's inside, but it's getting it out is the challenge. Right. So it's all in there, but, and please, all of you who work with children on the autism spectrum, tell me if I'm off base or if this sounds what you believe too, because I just believe that, you know, it's helping them. And for my own child who struggled and was sort of autism spectrum-y, but not identified, she did shut down her emotions, and it was hard for her to understand how to express them. So right. it's yeah.
I think I totally agree with you. Is someone speaking?
No, your turn.
Okay, I think I totally agree with you, and it's either black or white for them. And while you were speaking, I remember a situation where something happened, and I got to know that sometimes we misinterpret emotions in children. So, for example, I always think of the cultural difference, like in Africa, in this part of the Nigeria, when an adult is speaking to you, maybe you did something wrong, for example, and the adult is trying to correct you, and you look away. To them, it's you're being rude. You you know, like you're looking away, like talk to the auntie here isn't listening. That's what they think you're doing. But when I from talking about emotion, I realize that sometimes the negative emotion they're feeling at that time, they're trying to put in the positive, the renew energy. And looking at you, saying all those things to them is too much for them to bear. So they're trying to like, okay, you know what, I did wrong, but I can do better next time and all of that. That's what that child is trying to do when it's looking away. So we need to be very careful in misinterpreting emotions in children. And that's one thing that is big for me, you know, even raising my children. Sometimes I'm trying to correct my daughter, and it looks like she's not listening, like she's watching a cartoon, and I'm like, what did I just say to you? And she repeats what I said to her. She tells me tomorrow and what I've said. I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. Like, every time they're not looking at you, there are some things they're trying to deal with. She feels like, oh, I disappointed you. How do I make it right and all of that? So that was very big for me, learning that we need to learn to not to misjudge emotions in children.
Yeah,
that's so important. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, and it is. It's perfect. It's a perfect response. Is Tiffany back? Have we lost Tiffany?
Let me try to reach out to her.
Okay. Because I wanted to address, you know, she was mentioning, do all teachers, you know, have that intuition? And again, I think they start out with that intuition, and then they may cut back their emotion and shut down their emotion because they feel it doesn't serve them. So, okay, so let's move forward. So, is she back? Is Tiffany back?
Yes. Oh.
Yes?
Okay, she's here. She says she's here. So I can't see her, but I think she's here.
Ask her if she just heard me.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Can you hear
you
me?
got cut off.
Oh, I could see you. I could see and hear everything, but I guess you couldn't hear me.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I couldn't hear. What were you finally saying? I wanted to. You had questioned whether all teachers have that intuition. Was that what you were?
Oh, I don't know where I was, but yes, Mike asked. He said, is that true? Is it that all teachers have that intuition? And really, when I examined it, I thought, you know, perhaps it isn't instinctive for all teachers. Perhaps it is something that need to be taught. And you know, it's just that I have surrounded and I was talking about the reason that I chose the people that I chose to work for us and work for me is because they are people that just do that. You know, they do have that, whether it's instinctive or whether it's been taught. You know, they are they look after and take care of children's whole beings, their emotion as well as their academics, and they do it with a really kind of open and soft heart. And I think that's probably where I was.
Well, and I know that I have worked with some teachers, especially first-year teachers, to teach them this kind of thing. And I don't know, because I have not gone through the education of a teacher, if this is a part of the curriculum at the time. But it's really important, I think, to teach the value of emotions and then to teach the balance. That's really important. And here I want to mention, you know, we're not just our name. We're not just our credentials. We are many, many, many things. And I think children need to learn that too, because as they're growing and learning, they're just sitting there going, oh boy, what am I? Well, what are you? You know, you're strong, you're loud, you're quiet, you're sweet, or whatever. And I thought this was really great to show, you know, children's hands with these different attributes that we have, right? These different positive things. And it's funny because to me, this is like if my child wrote on their hands like that, I would freak out, like, oh my gosh, what's all over your hands? Oh my goodness. And then we see creative children and creative people that this would be wonderful for. So I wish I had had this information when my children were young, but it's another idea. You know, if it's something they can wash off or whatever you're comfortable with, creativity, how beautiful is this? Write on your fingers what you are. What do you do? What tell me about you?
All of those things are wonderful, or even just speaking those things, just speaking them into existence. I am not stupid. I am smart. I am kind. I am whatever it is I am. I'm good at these things.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's great. Okay, let's go here. So positive or renewing emotions give us access to those parts of our brains that recognize patterns, solve problems, and develop better ways of thinking. Again, our body's trying to maintain homeostasis. It has all these attributes, but when we shut down parts of the body, it won't be able to work at its best. So I'd like you to see this brief movie. Whoops, sorry. Technical difficulties again.
In sync, out of sync. Have you ever been called on in class, froze, and your memory went blank? Or gotten mad at the sidewalk when it ran into your foot? What about saying something out of frustration that you totally regretted later on? These are moments when our reactive brain overwhelms our thinking brain. Staying calm allows our brains to work better and life to flow smoother. In order to have more control, to be in sync, to do our best, our brain, body, and heart must work together. Your brain and heart constantly communicate through the autonomic nervous system, or ANS. It regulates all the things in your body that you never think about, like breathing, digestion, and heart rate. Messages are being sent up and down the ANS constantly to keep your energy and body in balance. These messages flow through two parts of the ANS, sympathetic and parasympathetic. The sympathetic turns up our energy and heart rate for taking action. The parasympathetic slows down your heart rate and helps us recover our energy after a lot of activity. Thoughts and emotions dramatically affect those messages. Emotions like frustration, anger, or worry can kick the signals in the ANS out of balance. We are out of sync. Heart rhythms show us what this chaos looks like. When you experience frustration, it's like driving a car with one foot on the gas pedal, sympathetic, and the other one on the brake, parasympathetic, at the same time. Who would want to do that? It makes for a jerky ride, uses more gas, and eventually wears out the car. It turns out, drum roll please, the heart sends more messages to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. Yep, it's a lot more than a blood pumping machine. It influences how we think, feel, and make decisions. When we are stressed out, those chaotic messages interfere with our ability to think, make good decisions, and maintain physical coordination. Try solving a math problem when you're mad. In sports, if you're upset, that winning shot might fall short. When chaos happens in our ANS, it affects your cortex, the thinking part of your brain, scrambling your ability to think. It's called cortical inhibition. When we are feeling emotions like appreciation, care, and enthusiasm, the heart sends signals that help the brain get in sync. Heart rhythms become smooth and even. Brain power and decision-making become easier. Scientists call this cortical facilitation. We all have the ability to change our physiology, attitudes, and emotions to get to that sweet spot, in sync. But just like scoring that winning shot, it's a skill that comes with practice.
Okay, so that movie talks about what I'm going to get into next, is how to get in sync with your heart and your brain. And my colleague Enid mentioned this to me yesterday, and I thought, wow, pretty powerful and very true. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. And I love this, and I had read it a long time ago, and I think a lot of this and the next few minutes I'm going to spend on listening and how to get in a space when we can listen so that we can reply appropriately, so that we are not reacting. Right, Enid? Is that what it was?
Yeah, that was exactly what it was. Yep.
So
responding, not reacting.
Yeah, so we want to take a minute. And when we take that minute to breathe, just 1 minute, it can change your whole response. Okay, so what are you saying to yourself about learning? And what are you saying to yourself as a teacher? What are you saying to yourself as a parent? All right, we have this in the educational aspect, but I never get it right. Or how about it's okay to make mistakes? That's how I learn. Lola just mentioned that before. This is too hard, I don't get it. You know, when I'm stuck, I ask for help. Let's choose the side, the yellow side. Let's choose the renewing aspects of our language. Let's choose that. And Tiffany mentioned the same thing. I am, I am, I am. We all learn at different speeds. Why did they tell my son at 2nd grade he'll never be able to read? At 2nd grade, they told him that. I thought, what? What are you talking about? By 4th grade, he is reading, you know, high school stuff. I don't understand that people would do that. Okay, and again, you know, maybe Tiffany, like you mentioned, it's the teachers that haven't, I don't know, maybe learned these aspects of emotions and how damaging that can be to a child, right? We don't know, but when we integrate this stuff, we're able to change that. We're change that thought process, change the teacher, change the child. You know, I hate this, I can't do it. You know, well, we all learn at different speeds. I need to stick with it. Stick with it. That's the emotional aspect of it. I can do this. I have support. I trust myself. Let me just balance again. You know, let me calm down because there's lots of adrenaline running, and let me run around, do something, and let me try it again. You know, I'm too far behind, I give up. Okay, Enid, talk to me about the girl that we did the class with. The girl that was in our class as well.
Yeah, about how,
yes.
Well, one thing I wanted to say right about what you were saying about the words is all my students learn, when I do the assessment with them in the beginning and they don't know anything on the assessment and they get really nervous and stressed because I'm asking them all these things they don't know that they think they should know. They all learn the very first assessment visit that I say, I want all of you to say, I don't know that yet. So whoever I'm working with, I said, okay, this is what I want you to say. When I ask you something, just say, I don't know that yet. Because it shifts from, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I'm too far behind, I never learn anything, to, and I even say to them, you may not have been taught in a way before that you were able to learn this stuff, but you are going to learn this. So when you get to something you don't know, just say, I don't know it yet. And that shifts a lot. And just that alone changes how they see themselves, you know. And then with the student that we shared, you know, we started out with, this was sort of one of the most powerful things. We started out with strengths and weaknesses, as I do with all my students. And in the beginning, for most of them, it's very difficult to come up with strengths. I have to help them. It's, you know, it's very difficult. And then she graduated, I think, within like 3.5 months. So I think she worked with me for 3.5, maybe 4 months. She was 4 grade levels behind. She's at grade level. Mom just texted me the other day and said she's really doing well and thriving. But a lot of what we talked about was getting at optimal performance and understanding what her strengths and her weaknesses are. And at the end, she had such a long list of strengths, and I think only 2 weaknesses, and so much confidence and so much, but just completely shifted all of the wording of how she felt about herself. But in the beginning, the reason why they were even at our workshop was because of so much anxiety in school and so much anxiety about learning. So,
and she actually said to you, I had no idea that I could change that within myself. And that's, I think, what we as adults need to understand. All right. Yeah. We're talking to this as children, but we do the same thing. I can't do that. That's too hard for me. I can't, exercise. I can't, whatever. It's like, you can do it. You do it to what your limit is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to change the shift in the mindset to say,
right. Yeah. And to change the adrenaline in your system and to balance it. What we want to teach maybe to them is heart listening. Okay. So you're getting in sync. So imagine that the magnetic field of your hearts are in sync. There are, I have taught they have measured the heart rate of an infant in the brain waves of the mother. It's unbelievable, the stuff that happens between people. And if 3 feet in that magnetic field can make a difference, again, remember, think about that. I know I've mentioned that, but it's very important in my mind's eye. So you breathe in the warm feeling. We're going to do that next. You listen with your heart, and then you say that you understood. So when a child's speaking to you and they're not making too much sense, you give it back to them and then say, no, that I want to say it this way. So, and even if you're talking to your husband, even if you're talking to, your friend, it's the same thing. We all of a sudden get defensive. And what is that? That's that reaction, right? It's not understanding and replying. It's, oh my gosh, they just said this terrible thing about me, when that wasn't really meant. So you need to repeat it. And then I love this Chinese character. Listen with your ear. Give respect as you would to a king. Watch in the eye, and doing this with a full heart.
It is good, isn't
that
it?
moment. You're taking a
Isn't that
moment.
lovely?
Yeah, it's good.
Really, you need that moment. And so this is global, right? This is international. And by the way, these are all things that I'm certified to teach. So like, you can't take the information or take the slide, but you can take the information. But what I'm saying is it's all protected. But again, think about this. This is Chinese. And we're talking about this in America. And we're talking about this in Nigeria. And we're talking about this in India. Okay, this is our commonality. This is our great challenge and our greatest accomplishment for all of us here. It's just incredible.
I was going to say too, I have a picture kind of on my Facebook page that I use with my students, especially my students on the spectrum, that teaches listening skills. And it says, we listen with our hands, we listen with our eyes, but it shows, for students, sort of the process of listening, that it's not just with our ears. So I love that too. Because I think it's important that all students, when they're little, they need to learn what listening is. We need to teach active listening. Yeah. And when I say we listen with our hands, because sometimes those hands are so busy, and so we talk about their hands being quiet. We listen with our eyes, because when we're focused, and we know with children on the spectrum, I never force a child to give eye contact. But what I always say is, look in the direction of the speaker. Then they know you're listening to them. So, and we need to keep our bodies from being, distracting us. So.
Okay, so let's work on this. I mentioned this in the last, in our last talk as well, but I'd like to really work on this today, because I think this will work with adults as well. So this is called the Heart Warmer Technique. It is from Heart Math, which is in Boulder Creek, California. They're the ones who put together all these programs. And what they found is, when we take our focus from our brain to our heart, that's when we're able to calm down those messages that are traveling, you know, that have imprinted in our brain over and over again, the looping thoughts that aren't serving us any longer. They may not even be true. They may not be valid at the moment. So this is how we get to the in sync. This is how we get to a place to listen. This is how we get to optimal performance, is by actually calming down that emotion that's rushing into the system. Okay, so when you want to warm your heart up with a feeling of love or care, so you're feeling angry, this is very good for children. They're sad, they don't know why, they don't know what's going on. Practice the heart warmer technique. It helps you to feel better and gives you a warm feeling in your heart. So I'd like everybody to try it, please. And you can read through or hear my voice. Begin by shifting your attention to the area around your heart. You can place your hand on your heart. That's giving the body a signal that you're changing what you're doing, okay? And then I want you to breathe in and out of your heart area. Take in 3 slow breaths. And imagine you're breathing in a feeling of warm sunshine. So now that we've calmed down, you can ask the children the questions. Ask your husband, ask whoever. How does that feel? Do you feel your heart warm up? Your sad or lonely feeling may start to go away, and your heart may tell you to ignore the upset feeling and move on to something fun. So we actually change the physiology of the body that quickly. Now, this isn't a yoga state or a state of pure calm where you're sleeping. This is a state of balanced autonomic nervous system that we mentioned in the movie. And again, I can get more into that when we do a class. But this is right now. This is what you can do today. This information I've given you today gives you food for thought. Think about before you yell or before something, what's going on inside you? What triggered you? Is it the behavior? Is something happening? Are you nervous about something going on in your environment or going on in the world? Okay. Know that you can come back to yourself. You can trust yourself and get to this space. I know, Manvina, I've run way over time. Do you want me to continue, or should we leave here? How do you feel?
Please continue. Please continue, Tris.
Are you sure? Okay. All right. It's not much longer. So another idea, so to get into sync, I mentioned this again last time, but I'd like to stress this. Make appreciation breaks. And I think Enid has mentioned that many times, and Lola as well. And I'm sure Blessing and Tiffany, everybody understands this. But even an appreciation book for a child, if they're frightened about school, what do I appreciate about school? And like Enid said, their list of appreciation or positive aspects of themselves may be nothing, but at the end, after you teach them and how to calm down and how to get to this space, there'll be more words of appreciation. And again, we can teach them words, right? Enid, like we have to teach words. What are words of appreciation? And let's go to those words instead of bad, mad, sad, and all those, right? Let's go to the appreciation word. We take an appreciation break. We sit down and start writing what we appreciate. My dog, I love children tend to really appreciate their animals. Even when everything else is falling apart, they have their animals. So it's just another thing to do. So what can we do? We can breathe, take the breathing technique in. We can do appreciation breaks. We can concentrate on positive, renewing emotional words. Okay, so this is how we can change our environment within 1 to 3 minutes. All right. And this, okay, hang on a second, let me stop. Okay, so I'm sorry. I'd like to explain this a little bit. This is the software program that I have taken to many schools, that I have trained actually in Jakarta and Singapore on this. This is software that attaches to computers or cell phones for children, and they can actually play these. They're very basic games, and this is what shows them how their heart rate is. And when we mentioned back in the movie about heart rate variability, this is what is mentioned. Now these programs were installed in this school, and I'm just going to show you the result.
What you're about to watch are staff and students from Mountain View Elementary School District commenting on a heart math program they participated in over 4 Saturday mornings. Led by Principal Jeff Lagazzino and 3rd grade teacher Kelly Garstang, 12 GATE students learned heart math tools and the freeze framer technology, now called M-Wave PC, to reduce stress and improve behavior and academic performance. Let's ask Jeff how the students are doing.
There was a distinct difference just in the second week. The students did report that they practiced the skills over the week, and even gave examples of when they used the tools. One of the boys was in a debate competition and said he was really nervous beforehand, and then he reminded himself that if he practiced some of the tools that he could calm himself down, and he ended up winning the debate. So I felt really good about that.
First, students learned a stress management tool called Quick Coherence, which helps them manage their emotions, whether in the classroom, on the playground, or at home. As Jeff Lagazzino comments, when they used this tool, there was an immediate sense of calm across the whole class. Later, they tried the M-Wave PC technology. This technology objectively monitors the rhythms of the heart through a non-invasive finger or ear sensor and tells students how much they are in physiological coherence, or in sync. The students were especially motivated to play the various software games, like the rainbow or balloon games.
Initially, all 100% of the students were 100% low in their coherence. By the end of the first class, some of them were starting to get some blue. Then when they started the second Saturday, they were starting in the blue, maybe a little bit of the red range, and by the end of that class, they were moving into the green. And now there's several of them that are very successful that immediately start in the blue or in the green and can maintain themselves there.
The M-Wave PC is an important tool because it helps train students through immediate visual feedback on how to get into this coherence mode, like an athlete who is operating in the zone. Then they can transfer this new skill to areas in their life needing more intelligence, patience, or better decision-making. The students started off by looking at their heart rhythm patterns the first week and recording their different levels of coherence. Then they were introduced to the Meadow game. The games were much more appealing to the students. They reported that it was easier for them to gain higher coherence scores with the games, as opposed to just looking at their heart rhythms.
Well, in the regular classroom, my kids use it a lot. Also on the playground, they use it. And when they're in conflict resolution and they're upset, they're beginning to recognize their own emotions. And even though they can't always control things that happen to them, they're learning that they can control how they react to those things. It's been really valuable for my kids. now that they've learned to use the tools, I think they're applying them in their lives, and they're thinking of ways that they can really bring this to life in the classroom, at home, and applying it more. Before, they were just learning how to use the techniques. Now they've understood it. I think they've got it, and they are beginning to see the power of it in real life.
I like it because it really works when you're stressed out.
What changes have you noticed in the last month?
Well, I haven't been that stressed anymore. It's really helped me.
Can you describe how it's helping you?
Well, when I think of something that gets me mad, I just remember my breathing and my appreciation. It helps me by not stressing out a lot.
And how does that make you feel when you're not stressing?
It makes me feel calm. I learned how to relax in any situation.
Is it helping you already?
Yes.
Can you give me a specific example?
Before, if my sister asked any question, I just used to get mad with her. But now I calm myself down and I'm nice to her.
I'm pleased with how the parents responded to what we were teaching the students. It's a very positive response, and they were very interested. I think that these tools are becoming more and more important as life becomes more and more stressful. They sense it themselves, and I think they're very appreciative that we have these opportunities for their students to learn these skills.
Okay, and I thank Blessing for sending this out last time, but I want everyone to know that no person or situation causes anxiety or stress for you. It's the way you feel about what happens that determines your anxiety level. So it's really important that once you balance it, once you learn those positive words, that we can change all this. So I thank you all for your attention and for attending. Please contact me. I can work with your children. I can work with you. I'd love for my colleagues, we can bring in this software if you're interested. And if there's any questions, I don't know how much time we have, but whatever, I'd love to hear from you.
Wow.
Thank you, Therese.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe that this is so important even for teachers, because while you were talking, Therese, I just thought back at when I started teaching earlier, and I would get so frustrated sometimes at kids with learning difficulties. You have to teach the same thing over and over again. I'm like, oh my God, now we learned this already. What is happening? Now fast forward to now. Usually when that happens, I just tell myself, listen, calm down. Calm down. This child is here for you to help her. So just calm down, okay? And just go over it again or look for another method. Or sometimes I just take a break. You know what? You need a break and I need a break. So have a break. So I believe this is very important for teachers as well, even as much as it is for students. Thank you so much, Terry. Thank you.
Thank you, Therese. That was a good one.
Thank you very much, Res. We really learned a lot. And I would like to add something here. It's about the parents. So if you don't mind, can I just to share a couple of slides?
Oh, I would love it.
Yeah, just. Yeah, can you see this?
Yes.
Yes.
So generally with a child, these four types of people or kinds of people are associated: parents, teachers, family members, and therapists. So as per the title of our panel discussion today, I would like to add something about the parents here. So, when studying psychology in the university, I came across a term called chronic sorrow. During the 1960s and 70s, there was a concept that was commonly referred to as chronic sorrow for parents whose children either had a chronic illness or some special needs. Psychologists believe that most families went through 7 stages of grieving: shock, confusion, anger or guilt, hope, depression, and then understanding and acceptance. It was thought that parents experienced these stages in a particular order that was repeated whenever their children underwent life-changing events that reminded them of when they first became aware of the child's disability. But I honestly never agreed. I honestly never agreed with this. In my career, I have worked closely with a huge number of parents. While it is certainly true that parents struggle with a range of negative emotions, this model fails to recognize the deep love and great joy that parents experience with children who have special needs or additional needs. These experiences are more of emotional journeys that evolve as they come to better understand their children's situations. Each individual's journey is unique, and the progression through feelings such as anger, denial, and then hope, acceptance, understanding, pride, and joy, as well as other positive emotions, follows no set pattern. Nor does everyone experience all of them. Individuals often deal with several emotions simultaneously, and it can vary from person to person. So I believe that is important for parents to understand their unique emotional journey, especially during difficult times in their children's lives. So in my experience, I personally feel that families' knowledge and understanding increase over time, so their reactions change. By viewing their emotional ups and downs as a journey involving personal growth, parents are able to view their frustrations in a more constructive light, and that frees them to better appreciate the times of happiness and pride they share with their loved one who has some special needs or additional needs. So let me stop sharing the screen now. Oh, can you see me? No, my video is off.
There.
Okay. I lead a team of teachers. I just want to add here, I lead a team of teachers and other professionals in a school for differently children and young people in India. So 4 of my colleagues have children who study in the same school. They first met me as parents, and I offered them a position in the school. And now I can very proudly say that they are much more happier than they were before, much more happier in their professional life as well as in their personal life. They are upgrading themselves on regular basis, and they are actually assets in our team. So if we want, we can give our negative emotions a positive direction. That's all I wanted to say here. So if you just yes, I would like to request my other colleagues here to say something, share your experiences, please.
Okay, who's going first?
Can't hear.
I think what you said is quite true, Manobina. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
From
yes.
what you said to me, we have quite. I know I've seen most, like in the U.S., from the experiences I've had, most of the like I said, the policies and some of the things that has favored individuals with additional needs or special needs comes from those parents who have seen what the issue is with their children and have chosen to choose the positive emotions, and then they use it to be able to drive something good for their own children. We also have siblings or someone that has gone through something. And then I remember doing my graduate program, I had this lady, she was the oldest in our class. We're all wondering what she was doing there. And she said to us, most of the things you are learning right now, I didn't have this to help my son. He's in his 30s and he's still living home with me. But she chose the positive energy to come study what it's all about. And then she wants to help other people. So that's a good one. And also, parents here in Nigeria, we've had some parents who have studied, done some training with us at the Cadet Academy. They found that there were some negative, they dissipated the negative emotions and they embraced the positive one to build something good so that they can help other people. It's so amazing, the joy and the fulfillment that comes with embracing the positive energy and using it to build something good. Most times, you know, when Terry was speaking, I'm like, knowledge is so powerful. When you understand, when you play the video, when you understand how the emotion works, knowing the negative emotion and the positive emotion, understanding that if you keep feeding on the negative emotion, you're killing yourself, literally, like your body, your mind, sicknesses and all of that stays with you. But if you choose, Tiffany says some of us don't verbalize it, but we know that there's a positive energy. We ruminate on it, we think about it, and then if you keep thinking about it and talking about it, somehow it moves you towards something positive, and then you can build more positive energy around other people. So that's a strong one for me, and I totally agree with what Manubina has said. And really, I'm still learning. I'm like, oh, really, I can actually make something better. You know what I'm doing. So it's so good. I totally appreciate this. And there's nothing better that I've learned this period than this, and I look forward to learning more on this too.
And I wanted to chip in something about what Amy said earlier, because what just came to my mind was growth mindset. You know, when you're teaching kids, because most times you have kids with learning issues tell you often, I don't know, and you're like, okay, so that what she brought out stood out so well for me, because I can tell them to say, you don't know this yet. So that's a mindset. Yes, you don't know this now, but we're going to learn it together. So it's different from I don't know. That you're now telling me that I don't know this yet. So what's going to happen? So we're going to learn this together. That was amazing for me too. I love this panel. I think I'm learning so much more than the participants. Thank you so much, Annie. Thank you.
I'm so honored to be on this panel with everybody here. We're all learning so much together, and this is just incredible. Thank you all for including me.
Enid, if you'd like to share some experiences of your career, whatever you had, and
I think
talking about some rapport building with the students and the parents yesterday when we had a meeting. So if you could just share something with us.
Sure. I think that what we were saying yesterday, and I think it's so important, is we can't do anything with any student or anybody until we have a rapport. We've built a connection and a rapport. And I think sometimes, and it kind of goes to what Tiffany was talking about earlier when she was talking about, do all teachers have this ability to instinctually teach this way? And I think so many people miss out on the rapport piece, and they want to just go right to teaching the skill. And I feel that one of the reasons why I am able to be so successful with my students is because of the rapport, because of the trust. And again, with the parents as well. With anyone, when they feel that you have their best interest and they can trust you, it's really important for everything to follow. So you build the rapport, and with that, then you can introduce these things like concepts like I don't know that yet, And but to build the rapport, one of the things I think is really important to say too is that it's so different for everybody. So when I'm working with children, I come to where they're at. One of my favorite quotes of all time is from Emily Rubin from the Yale Autism Center. And she says, "We need to make our party more fun than theirs." And by that, she was referring to the fact that there's a party in their head, right? So if the student's already entertaining themselves and feeling just fine doing what they're doing, and now you're saying, no, we need to be doing this, you need to make it engaging and fun, and like she says, more fun than their party. So that's sort of, I learned that from Emily Rubin early on in my career, and it's something I've always just kind of kept close to my heart, is, you know, thinking about it that way. Teresa and I were talking yesterday about the concept of fun and learning. And I said, yeah, and Tiffany, you understand this, and that's why Nessie is such a successful program, the computer program, because it's so fun, engaging, and the students are naming their monkey, and they're going on this adventure, and, you know, and they're getting these coins, and, you know, and so there's a reward, and there's an engaging, and there's a fun part, you know, with that. And when you have that in any program, you actually, it's the student is able then, again, that's all part of the rapport and the trust, is that, you know, they're having fun with it. So they think it's important to know, I mean, to always think about learning as, where is the student at? What's fun for them? What's engaging? Where do they feel comfortable? Some students in the beginning, I have to be very like cautious how I interact with them, maybe even not even too much energy, or, you know, whatever it is that student needs. I feel it's important we go to their level. And then one thing I wanted to share really quick, Lee, was from the, if I can bring it up, was from the National Reading Panel, which was the National Reading Panel in 1997, was the United States government body, formed at the request of Congress. It was a panel that stated the aim of assessing the effectiveness of different approaches used to teach children to read. So they took all these different approaches and they said, okay, what is the best approach? And what was important from everything they, you know, what was summarized is, there is no one way to teach reading that works for all children, and that goes for teaching anything. And the teacher, not the method, makes the difference. So number 3, teachers cannot do the job without the support of community and good policy. So that is just so important, I think, to mention, as far as, you know, it's so important. The teacher is so important in the connection and the rapport,
right,
and the fun.
And Enid, in relation to what Manabina had posted, can you talk a little bit about your parents and the difference, the parents that you've seen as they've come in and then as their child is advanced, and, you know, just talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think, and I know, and Tiffany can talk about this too, the hope issue, right? Tiffany, when you meet parents for the first time and they say things to you like, is my child ever going to read? You know, and I think just realizing that people need that hope. They need that understanding that you're going to come in with a different approach, and you're going to, you know, do everything you can to help their student or their child, and that it's not just about methods of teaching as much as it is about that connection and that rapport in the beginning, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And you said several things that really speak to me. One thing is being flexible. You know, we talk about teachers that are really effective, and there is this flexibility when in meeting the child where the child is, and understanding that not every technique is going to work for every child.
Mm-hmm.
And also another thing that you said, you know, when you said, I haven't learned that yet. I mean, that's taking such a weight off of the child, because they come in and they're so heavy when they come to us already, and it's taking that weight off and saying, this isn't your fault. You know, we're going to teach you in a different
Mm-hmm.
way, and we're going to find the way that works for you. And you're going to learn. And it doesn't mean that you're broken or there's something wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your fault. And you just kind of, you don't know it yet. You don't know it yet because you haven't been taught it yet. You haven't been taught it yet the way that you learn. So all of those things are really important. One thing that, another thing that struck me when all of the educators were speaking was that when we visit schools, Mike and I visit a lot of schools, you can, there's a particular feeling in the room, in the atmosphere of certain teachers, really effective teachers. You can just feel it when you walk into their classroom. You can feel the kind of just the lightness of spirit and learning going on in their classroom. You know, children have freedom to express themselves. There's a lot of really good learning going on. And that's a flexible place with a teacher that's very responsive to their needs, and just kind of meeting them where they are. So I don't know how else to describe it other than we walk into certain schools and you can feel that, and you walk into other schools and you think, this is not a comfortable place to be. This place is not comfortable. And interestingly, when you walk into those schools that are not a comfortable place to be, they are the ones that are telling us, oh, our children are not succeeding, our kids are not meeting the benchmarks, our kids are all of these things. And, you know, they're trying all of these techniques to get them up to speed, where they're really kind of missing this, the things at the core that need to be addressed first before all those things will happen. But anyway, I appreciate the panel today. I've learned so much, and so many of you have so many wisdom to impart, and I appreciate getting to participate in it today. Enjoyed learning from everyone, and Teresa is fantastic. The techniques, I just want to continue to learn more about those, because how helpful they will be in the classroom to many teachers and many students.
Yes, and I find that to be the case. They are really helpful, and it's the reason I do it, because like you, it's a passion, and I can't, you know, it's like we've got to change things. It's got to be different. And we've got these wonderful children with this neurodiversity that we have to expand on it, not shut it down. And that's what you ladies are doing. And I'm just so thankful to be with you. So thank you.
I think we have a question.
So if you would like
I am
say-
going to need to step up to go off the call, though. I do have another appointment.
Oh, okay, okay, that's all right. All right. So, are we going to conclude this meeting here, or if someone wants to say something, Lola?
I actually have to step off as well. We have a company meeting coming up, and Mike's just come in to remind me.
Yeah, that's great. Then yes, Lola, you wanted to say something?
No, I was wondering that participants might have questions for us, so it would be a good time to answer any questions based on what Teresa's presented to us today.
I saw a question. Somebody is asking that for a child who.
So I'm going to say goodbye for now.
Okay.
I am as well.
Bye.
Okay.
Everyone.
Bye.
There are some questions coming, and some of.
Did you get that question?
Yeah, have you got the questions? So, would you like to answer those questions?
Okay, I saw one question here. Someone is asking that if a child has emotionally shut down, what do you do?
Okay, who wants to take this? Do you want me to take it?
Yes, please.
Okay, so from today, I would go and work with that heart breathing and get them back into their heart, get them to a space where they're feeling again, and they can feel. Okay, so talk about warmth in your heart. You don't need to talk about the words so much, but you want to get them to emote something or to feel it. So putting your hand on your heart, breathing. I've also done things where they put their hands up in the sky and they see the sun and they imagine it coming to their heart, warming their heart, because they feel cold-hearted. They shut down their emotion because it hurts. So we want to make an emotion a positive if we can.
Is there any more question? One of my colleagues asked me the other day after the previous global panel, which is the strongest emotion and which is the most dangerous emotion you think?
Well, that's interesting. That's a very interesting question. I believe all emotions have a purpose. So we need to have fear in case a car is coming at us. We need to be able to run away. So we need all of the emotions we have. We just need to balance them. So in the movie, we talk about the balance of the autonomic nervous system. When we're breathing, that breathing technique, and we move to the heart, that's how we do that. So getting in sync between the heart and the brain, that's how we calm that down. So I don't believe emotions are dangerous unless we allow that, okay? And that's a personal thing.
Very much so. So is there any more question? Yeah, there are some questions, and I got some requests in my personal chat box. A few of the attendees are asking whether we have any plans to run any course on special education and maybe on behavior management. Yes, I would like to take this up. Yes, of course, we have some plans for that. Hope to let you know about some courses very soon. And also, we are planning to have webinars related to autism by the experts from India and the UK, and of course, with all the collaborators of mine who are present here today. So we will let you soon. We'll let you know soon. So it's a very good experience today, learning experience, Tris, basically from you and from all my colleagues present here. And Lola, would you like to say something?
I think we've said quite a lot.
Lola's video is frozen, I think. Lola's video is frozen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Lola.
Yeah.
I think we've said quite a lot today, and we just need to take it all in, digest it, and we've said quite a lot. We talk about what the positive energy, or the emotion would do to us, and Enid said, was it Tiffany, about building relationship first with our students, very important, and then the positive energy gives motivation. All of the words that were highlighted, happiness, joy, fulfillment, accomplishment, all of those are like motivating factors for us to keep, building and doing well. And I think I noted something now, that when we as teachers, as parents, understand this emotion and how to go about it, it makes learning easier for our students with additional needs and special needs. So that's what I have to say.
Can I see something came up? It said about a child who can't be controlled. Can one of you guys take that one? Can you see that, Manavina?
Yeah. Let's show something, Tris.
Let me see. Oh, here it is. I want to ask how one calm a child whose emotion is shut down or can't be controlled. How do you handle that within the classroom? What do you see that as? How do you control or change that?
I think you already talked about how you can calm the child, but when you say it can't be controlled, that's a bit for me. I need to understand what you mean by it can't be controlled, because sometimes the way we interpret what is going on differs. But by the time if you use that technique one, and also you have your strategies for what's that called now? Controlling a shutdown. That's a bit tough for me anyway. But I think once you understand what is going on with the child and you already have your strategy, okay? So for example, you could have the calming strategy that Terry's talked about. You could also have a way. For me, what I usually do, what I do in my classroom is we have like a contingency plan as to when something happens, this is what I'm going to do. So I think it has to do with you identifying what it is in the first place and coming up with a plan before it escalates. It's about being proactive for me as opposed to being reactive. I don't know if I have been able to answer that based on my own experiences.
Yeah, there are requests you can see on the screen, courses on behavior management. So let us plan some things on that soon. And maybe it's better to conclude today's session. We have taken enough time of the attendees, and thank you everybody for being such wonderful participants, and thank you to all my friends present here. Enid and Tiffany have already left. Tris, Lola, and Blessings video is frozen again. So, so thank you very much, all of you.
I
So
can hear you.
yeah, you can hear me. So till our next webinar, maybe, can we say goodbye to everybody?
Yes, goodbye. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you so much for spending this
Bye-bye.
time with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Manutina. Thank you,
Thank you to all of you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.